I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. The message came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, just 12 words that shattered 35 years of motherhood. Don't interfere with us. Pamela feels uncomfortable. We need space. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there staring at my phone, wondering when my son learned to speak to me like I was a problem that needed fixing. What I didn't know then was that this message would lead me to discover something shocking. In the past 18 months, I had given them $47,000, and they never said thank you. Not once. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. The October sun streamed through my kitchen window, warming the pile of fresh laundry I was folding. I lived alone in a modest 2-bedroom house in Portland, Oregon. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Paid off after 30 years of working as a registered nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center. My phone buzzed on the counter. I smiled without thinking. Mothers never outgrow that habit, you know. Even at 62, my heart still jumped when I saw my son's name on the screen. James, my only child, my whole world for so many years. I picked up the phone expecting maybe a photo of my 3-year-old grandson Tommy, or perhaps an invitation to dinner this weekend. James and his wife Pamela live just 20 minutes away in a newer apartment complex near the Pearl District. The smile died on my lips as I read. Mom, we need to talk. Pamela and I have been discussing something important. Please don't interfere with our lives anymore. Your constant presence makes her uncomfortable. We need space. James. I read it again, then again. 7 times total, actually. As if reading it enough would change the words, soften them, somehow reveal some hidden kindness I was missing. But the screen stayed the same. Cold. Final. My hands started shaking. I set the phone down carefully on the counter like it might explode if I moved too quickly. The folded towel slipped from my lap onto the floor. I didn't pick it up. Interfering, uncomfortable space. These words felt foreign, like they were meant for someone else. Some overbearing mother who showed up uninvited and criticized everything. That wasn't me. Was it? I tried calling. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. James, honey, it's Mom. I just got your message and I'm a little confused. Can we talk? Please call me back. I kept my voice steady. Professional even. Years of nursing had taught me to stay calm in emergencies. But this felt like a different kind of emergency. The kind where your heart breaks slowly, 1 word at a time. He didn't call back. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through the past 3 months like a detective searching for clues. When had things changed? I thought back to Labor Day weekend. I'd brought over a lasagna, James's favorite, because Pamela had mentioned they were both exhausted from work. She'd smiled when I arrived, but now I wondered if it was real or just polite. You didn't have to do this, Laura, she'd said, taking the dish from my hands. Oh, I wanted to. I know you've been working so hard with those new real estate listings. Had her smile tightened then? Had James looked uncomfortable? I couldn't remember. Then there was the time I'd stopped by to drop off some of Tommy's favorite cookies. I'd used my spare key because no one answered the door, and I knew they were home. Both cars were in the parking lot. I found them in the bedroom, and Pamela had looked startled, almost angry. Laura, we didn't know you were coming. I sent a text, I'd said, confused. We didn't see it. James had stepped between us then. Mom, next time maybe just call first, okay? I'd laughed it off. Of course, honey. I'm sorry. But now, lying in the dark, I realized that wasn't the first time. How many times had I surprised them? How many times had I rearranged Pamela's kitchen cabinets because it would be more efficient this way? How many times had I given unsolicited advice about Tommy's sleep schedule, his diet, his daycare? Oh, God. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. Had I been that mother, the interfering kind? At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I made tea and opened my laptop at the kitchen table. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe James was just stressed. Maybe if I could help them financially, things would smooth over. I'd been helping them here and there, a few hundred for groceries, 500 when their car needed repairs. I logged into my bank account to check how much I had available in savings. The screen loaded showing my checking account first, then my savings. Then I clicked on the transaction history. My stomach dropped. Venmo transfer to James Reed, $1,200. August 15th, Venmo transfer to James Reed, $1,200. July 15th, Venmo transfer to James Reed, $1,200. June 15th, the list went on. and on. I scrolled back through 18 months of statements. $1,200 every single month, like clockwork. But that wasn't all. Check number 4892 to James Reed, $3,500. Car down payment, Venmo transfer to James Reed, $2,000. Security deposit help, Venmo transfer to James Reed, $800. Tommy's medical bills. Check number 4903 to James Reed, $5,000. Emergency. Don't ask Mom, I'll explain later. The numbers blurred. My hands trembled as I grabbed a notepad and started adding. $1,200 times 18 months equals $21,600, plus the one-time payments. $11,300, plus the 6 months before that when I'd sent smaller amounts, $14,100, total $47,000. $47,000. I sat back in my chair, stunned. When had I become an ATM machine? And more importantly, why had I never said no? I closed the laptop and walked to my bedroom closet. On the top shelf behind some old sweaters was a box of photo albums and letters. I pulled it down and sat on my bed, opening the oldest album first. There was James at 2 years old, covered in birthday cake, grinning at the camera. His father, Robert, stood behind him, hand on his shoulder. Robert had been a good man, a postal worker who never made much money but who loved his family fiercely. He'd died 8 years ago, lung cancer. It took him fast, just 4 months from diagnosis to the end. Before he died, he'd held my hand in that hospital bed and whispered, "Take care of our boy. But Laura, don't forget to take care of yourself, too." I'd promised I would, but had I kept that promise, I flipped through more pages. James's high school graduation, the day he got accepted to Portland State University, his wedding day 4 years ago when he married Pamela. I paused on that photo. Pamela had looked beautiful in her white dress, all smiles. I stood next to them in the picture wearing the navy dress I'd splurged on for the occasion. That was the day Pamela had hugged me and said, "I'm so glad to have you as my mother-in-law. You're the mother I never had." What changed? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old messages looking for clues. 6 months ago I found it. A message from Pamela to me. "Laura, I really appreciate all your help, but James and I need to figure things out ourselves. We're adults and we want to stand on our own feet. I hope you understand." I'd responded immediately. "Of course, sweetie, I just want to help when I can. Mothers never stop being mothers. Let me know if you need anything." She never responded to that message. Looking at it now with clear eyes, I saw what I'd missed before. She'd set a boundary, a gentle one wrapped in kindness, and I'd completely ignored it. I'd kept helping, kept showing up, kept sending money, because that's what I thought love looked like. 20 minutes away in a one-bedroom apartment that cost $2,400 a month. James Reed sat on his couch, phone in hand, staring at his mother's voicemail notification. He couldn't bring himself to listen to it. Pamela emerged from the bedroom wearing her yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, and her face was makeup-free. She looked tired. "Did you send it?" she asked quietly. James nodded. "Yeah." "Is she upset?" She called. I didn't answer. Pamela sat down next to him, drawing her knees to her chest. "I know this is hard, James. I know she's your mom and she means well. But we can't keep living like this." "Like what?" James's voice had an edge to it. Defensive. "Like we're children. Like we can't make our own decisions." Pamela's voice cracked slightly. "Last week she rearranged my entire kitchen. Without asking. I came home from work and everything was moved. The spices, the pots, the plates. Everything. She was just trying to help. Was she..." Pamela turned to look at him. "Or was she saying my way wasn't good enough?" James didn't answer. Pamela continued, her voice softer now. "I'm not ungrateful. Your mom is wonderful in so many ways. But James, she makes me feel like I'm failing. Every time she helps with Tommy, it feels like she's saying I'm not doing it right. Every meal she brings over is a reminder that mine aren't as good. Every piece of advice is a judgment in disguise." "That's not fair," James said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it? When was the last time she just visited without bringing food or money or a list of suggestions? When did she last just sit with us and enjoy our company?" James was quiet. He couldn't remember. His phone buzzed. Not his mother this time, his bank. "Alert, your credit card payment of $8,500 is overdue." Pay now to avoid additional fees. His stomach clenched. Pamela couldn't see this. She didn't know about this card, or the other one, or the personal loan he'd taken out 3 months ago. He'd borrowed money from his mother to pay the minimums. Then he'd borrowed more to cover the bills. Then more to cover the new bills. It was a cycle he couldn't break, and now his mother had just cut them off. Day 1. I woke up and checked my phone. No messages. I went about my routine. Shower, coffee, oatmeal with blueberries, but everything felt mechanical, like I was watching myself from outside my body. I picked up my phone a dozen times to text James, typed messages, deleted them. Honey, can we please talk? Delete. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Delete. I miss you and Tommy so much. Delete. I couldn't find the right words. Every option felt either too desperate or too cold. Day 2. Still nothing. I drove to the grocery store and found myself in the cookie aisle reaching for Tommy's favorite chocolate chip cookies. I stopped mid-reach. Who was I buying these for? A grandson I wasn't allowed to see. I left the store empty-handed. Day 3. I broke down. I was folding laundry again. Always laundry, because keeping my hands busy kept my mind from racing when I found one of Tommy's tiny socks. He'd left it here during his last visit 2 weeks ago. It was so small. Blue with little dinosaurs on it. That's when the tears came. Not dramatic sobbing, just quiet tears that rolled down my face and wouldn't stop. I thought about Tommy's laugh, the way he called me Gamma because he couldn't quite say Grandma yet, the way he'd climb into my lap during dinner and fall asleep with chocolate cake on his fingers. Would he forget me? Day 4. Anger arrived. I was scrubbing the kitchen counters unnecessarily. They were already clean when it hit me like a wave. I'd given them $47,000. I'd dropped everything when they needed a babysitter. I'd cooked meals, cleaned their apartment, given advice, offered support. And this was my thank you. A cold text message dismissing me like an unwanted salesperson. I scrubbed harder, my jaw clenched. Who did they think they were? But the anger faded as quickly as it came, replaced by something worse. Shame. Because maybe I deserved this. Maybe I had been overbearing. Maybe I had treated them like children who couldn't manage without me. Day 5. Bargaining. I drafted an email to James, revised it 17 times. Dear James, I've been thinking about your message and I want you to know I hear you. If I've overstepped, I sincerely apologize. That was never my intention. I only wanted to help. I'd like to sit down and talk, just the 3 of us, and hear specifically what boundaries you need. I promise to listen and respect whatever you decide. I love you and Pamela and Tommy more than anything. Please don't shut me out. Love, Mom. My cursor hovered over send for 10 minutes. Finally, I closed the laptop. If they wanted space, maybe that meant space from my emails too. Day 6. Clarity began to emerge. I joined a friend for lunch, Eleanor, from my book club. We'd known each other for 3 years, but weren't particularly close. She was slightly older than me, with silver hair and laugh lines around her eyes. You seem distracted, she observed over her soup. I told her everything. The message, the money, the silence. Eleanor listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set down her spoon and looked at me with surprising intensity. Laura, can I be honest with you? I nodded. Do your kids call you, well, not recently, but I mean in general. Do they call just to talk, to see how you're doing? I thought about it. They used to. Before Pamela and James got married, he'd call every Sunday. And now I usually call them. Eleanor nodded slowly. I have 2 kids. Both live in different states. When they were in their 20s, I was like you, always available, always helping, always there. And you know what happened? They started to expect it. They stopped seeing me as a person with my own life. I was just Mom, the help desk that was always open. What changed? I did. I stopped always being available. I got my own life. And you know what? Our relationship got better. Because they had to miss me. They had to value the time we had together. Day 7. The decision. I sat at my kitchen table that night, the house dark except for one lamp. I thought about what Eleanor had said. Then I opened my banking app. Automatic recurring payment to James Reed, $1,200 per month. My finger hovered over cancel recurring payment. This felt enormous, like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But hadn't James already crossed it first? Hadn't he drawn the boundary and asked me to respect it? I clicked cancel. Then I went through my email and found the password for my brokerage account. the one with the small investment portfolio Robert had left me. I'd been planning to leave it all to James in my will. I updated the beneficiary 50% to James Reed, 50% to Thomas Tommy Reed. If James didn't value my help now, maybe Tommy would understand one day. I closed the laptop and sat in the quiet darkness. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt empty, like I'd lost something I couldn't name. But I also felt something else, something small and fragile, like a seed just beginning to sprout. Dignity 2 weeks passed. Halloween came and went the first time in 3 years I didn't see Tommy in his costume. I posted a general Happy Halloween on Facebook and saw Pamela's photos of Tommy dressed as a dinosaur. My heart ached. I left a comment. "What a cute dino." She liked the comment. That was all. Life continued in this strange new normal. I went to work at the medical clinic where I'd picked up a few shifts per week after retirement. I couldn't afford to fully stop working with the money I'd been giving James. I went to my book club. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since Robert died. But I checked my phone constantly, waiting. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hi, Laura, this is Victoria Pamela's mom. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. Pamela gave me your number a while back. I heard about what happened and wanted to say I'm sorry. I know my daughter can be difficult sometimes. She's working through some things with her therapist about mother-daughter relationships. It's complicated. Anyway, I think you've been good to them, and I hope you and James can work things out. Take care. V. I stared at the message in shock. Pamela was in therapy. About mother issues with Victoria, I knew Victoria only slightly. We'd met twice at the wedding and at Tommy's first birthday party. She seemed nice enough, though there was always tension between her and Pamela. Victoria and her ex-husband had divorced when Pamela was 12. From what little Pamela had mentioned, it had been ugly. Lots of fighting. Lawyers. A bitter custody battle that Pamela's father eventually won. Pamela rarely talked about her mother after that. The few times Victoria came up in conversation, Pamela's whole body would tense. I'd never connected the dots before. Was I paying for Victoria's mistakes? Was Pamela pushing me away because I reminded her of a mother she'd lost? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could I possibly say to this? Finally, I typed, "Thank you for reaching out, Victoria. I appreciate you letting me know. I hope Pamela finds peace with whatever she's working through." I hit send, then immediately wondered if I should have said more, or less, or nothing at all. James Reed sat in his car in the parking lot of his apartment complex, staring at his steering wheel. His phone showed 3 missed calls from a debt collector. His credit card statement sat on the passenger seat unopened. He knew what it said. $8,500 overdue. $12,300 total balance. 37% interest rate. And that was just one card. He'd borrowed from his mother to make the minimum payments for months. Now that well had dried up, and the bills were piling up like snow in a blizzard. Inside the apartment, he could see Pamela through the window playing with Tommy. Building blocks. Tommy's delighted squeals carried even out to the parking lot. They looked happy, peaceful. How could he tell her? How could he admit that while she'd been asking for boundaries from his mother, he'd been secretly drowning in debt? The worst part, he'd lied about some of it. That $5,000 emergency he'd told his mom about, there was no emergency. He'd used it to pay off his previous credit card, which he'd maxed out buying Pamela an expensive anniversary gift, a designer purse she'd been eyeing. Because she'd been upset about Laura coming over unannounced again, and James had felt guilty for not standing up to his mother, so he'd bought peace with a $320 handbag. Stupid. So incredibly stupid. His phone rang. Not the debt collector this time. His mom. James stared at her name on the screen. His thumb moved toward accept, then stopped. What would he even say? The call went to voicemail. A minute later, a text came through. "Hi, honey. Just checking in. I love you. I'm here if you need me." Something inside James's chest cracked. His eyes burned. She was still there. After that awful message he'd sent after weeks of silence, she was still there. But he couldn't call her back. Not yet. Not when he'd have to ask for money again. He sat in the car for another 20 minutes trying to figure out a way forward. There wasn't one. "You should come to this," Eleanor said, sliding a flyer across the table at our book club meeting. "Watercolor Basics for Beginners. Every Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m., Portland Community Arts Center. I don't know, I started. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Not for James, not for Tommy, just for Laura. I couldn't remember. That's what I thought. Eleanor smiled. I'm signing up. Come with me. What else are you doing on Tuesday evenings? She was right. I was doing nothing, sitting at home checking my phone, hoping for a message that never came. Okay, I said. I'll try it. That Tuesday I showed up at the community center with a nervous knot in my stomach. I'd painted a little when I was younger, nothing serious, just a hobby. But it had been years. The instructor was a man in his 60s with paint-stained fingers and kind eyes. Welcome, everyone. I'm David. I've been teaching watercolor for 20 years, and I promise you anyone can learn this. You just need patience and a willingness to make mistakes. Something about his voice was immediately calming. We started with simple techniques: wet on wet, wet on dry, color mixing. I lost myself in the gentle flow of water and pigment on paper. For 2 hours, I didn't think about James. I didn't check my phone. I just painted. When class ended, I looked down at my paper. It wasn't good, the colors bled together, the shapes were imprecise. But it was mine. Something I'd created with my own hands. That's a great first effort, David said, pausing by my table. I love how you're not afraid of bold colors. It's messy, I said apologetically. Messy can be beautiful. Some of the best art comes from happy accidents. He smiled, and I found myself smiling back. Same time next week, he asked. Yes, I said, definitely. 3 weeks after the message, my phone rang on a Sunday morning. James. My heart leaped. I grabbed the phone so fast I nearly dropped it. Hello. Hey, Mom? His voice sounded strained, tired. James, hi, sweetheart. How are you? I'm okay. How are you? We were being so formal, so careful, like strangers making small talk. I'm good. I've started taking a painting class. Oh, that's great, Mom. Silence stretched between us. I could hear Tommy chattering in the background. Is Tommy okay? I asked. Yeah, he's good. Growing like a weed. More silence. Mom, James cleared his throat. I wanted to apologize for the message. It came out harsher than I meant it to. My eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saying that. Pamela and I have been talking, and we need to figure out how to do this adult thing, on our own. I understand. Do you? His voice had a slight edge. Because, Mom, you've been helping us for so long, I don't think we ever learned how to manage without you. I absorbed this. Is that such a bad thing, family helping family? No, but... He sighed heavily. It became expected, like a given, and that's not fair to you. I didn't know what to say to that. Anyway, James continued, I just wanted to check in, see how you were doing. I appreciate that. Another pause. I could feel him wanting to say something more, something bigger. Mom, He stopped. Never mind. I should go. Tommy's making a mess with his breakfast. Okay. I love you, honey. Love you too, Mom. The line went dead. I sat holding the phone, feeling both better and worse than before. At least he'd called. At least he'd apologized. But something in his voice told me this wasn't over. There was something he wasn't saying. I found out the truth completely by accident. I was at Whole Foods buying groceries when I ran into Sarah James's former coworker from his previous job. We'd met a few times at James's company holiday parties. Laura, hi. She gave me a warm hug. How are you? How's James doing? He's good, I said automatically. Busy with work and Tommy. I bet. Is he still at Vertex Marketing? I nodded. Yes, 4 years now. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. Oh, I thought... Well, I heard through the grapevine he might be looking for something new. New? No, I don't think so. Why would you think that? She looked uncomfortable. Oh, maybe I misheard. You know how office gossip is. But I could tell there was more. Sarah, what did you hear? She glanced around, then lowered her voice. Look, I don't want to spread rumors, but my friend Jen works in HR at Vertex. She mentioned they'd had some financial issues with employees. Some people being late on their 401k loans, that kind of thing. I thought I heard James's name, but maybe I was wrong. My stomach dropped. 401k loans. It's probably nothing. Forget I said anything. She squeezed my arm. Give James my best. She hurried off, leaving me standing in the produce section, my mind racing. 401k loans. James had taken money from his retirement account. At 62, I knew more about finance than most people. You don't work 30 years as a nurse without learning to manage money carefully, and I knew that borrowing from your 401k was usually a sign of desperation. You paid interest on your own money. You delayed retirement savings. You only did it when you had no other options. How bad were things for James? That evening, I did something I wasn't proud of. I logged into James's credit monitoring service, a service I'd set up for him years ago when his identity had almost been stolen, and I still had the login credentials. I probably shouldn't have looked. It was an invasion of privacy, but something told me I needed to know. What I saw made my blood run cold. Credit score 584. Poor total debt $47,892. 3 credit cards all maxed out. Capital One, $12,300. Chase, $15,200. Discover, $8,100. Personal loan from Lending Club, $12,292. The 401k loan, Sarah mentioned $5,000. He'd been using my money to make minimum payments, playing a shell game, borrowing from me to pay the credit cards, then borrowing more when the next bills came. And I'd enabled it. Every time he'd asked for help, I'd handed over the cash without asking questions. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. $47,000, and he still owed almost $48,000 more. This wasn't about Pamela feeling uncomfortable. This wasn't about boundaries and interfering. This was about money. It had always been about money. And James was drowning. If you're just joining us, welcome back. In part 1, I discovered that my son James sent me a cold message asking me to stop interfering in his life. But what really shocked me was finding out I'd given them $47,000 over 18 months. And when I checked his credit report, I discovered he owed almost $48,000 more. Now let me tell you what happened next, because this is where everything changed. December arrived with its usual Portland rain, the kind that soaks through your jacket and chills you to the bone. I'd survived Thanksgiving alone, well, not completely alone. Eleanor had invited me to her daughter's house in Seattle. It was strange being with someone else's family, watching their traditions, their inside jokes, their easy affection. But it was also freeing. For the first time in 35 years, I didn't spend the holiday cooking for 12 hours. I didn't worry about the turkey being dry or the gravy being lumpy. I just showed up with a pie and enjoyed myself. Eleanor's daughter Rachel had pulled me aside after dinner. "Mom talks about you all the time. She says you're going through a rough patch with your son." "It's complicated," I'd said. Rachel nodded knowingly. "Family always is. But can I tell you something? My mom went through something similar with my brother 10 years ago. She stopped enabling him and he was furious. Didn't speak to her for 8 months. 8 months? My heart sank. But then he got his life together. Got clean, found a job, started therapy. Now they're closer than ever. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone fall so they can learn to stand up on their own." Those words stayed with me. Back in Portland, I'd fallen into new routines. Tuesday evenings were for painting class. Wednesday mornings were my volunteer shift at the animal shelter. Thursday afternoons were book club. My life was quietly filling with things that had nothing to do with being James's mother. At painting class, David had started timing his breaks to coincide with mine. We'd stand outside the community center drinking terrible vending machine coffee, talking about everything and nothing. "How long were you married?" he asked one evening. 33 years. Robert died 8 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. My wife Ellen passed 6 years ago. Heart attack. One day she was fine, the next? He shook his head. I still reach for her side of the bed sometimes. I still set 2 plates out when I make dinner, I admitted. Then I have to put one back. He smiled sadly. The small habits are the hardest to break. We stood in comfortable silence watching the rain. My kids want me to date, David said suddenly. They keep setting me up with their friends' mothers. Last month my daughter arranged a surprise dinner party. Invited this woman named Margaret. Very nice lady. We had nothing in common. I laughed. That sounds painful. It was. Margaret spent the entire evening talking about her cat's dietary restrictions. He paused. This is going to sound forward, but would you like to get coffee sometime? Actual good coffee, not this vending machine sludge. My first instinct was to say no. I wasn't ready. I was too old. What would James think? Then I remembered James had asked for space. My life was my own now. I'd like that, I said. David's whole face brightened. Yeah, how about Saturday morning? There's a great place on Division Street. It's a date. The word felt strange in my mouth. Foreign, but not unpleasant. James sat in his car outside his apartment for the third night in a row. He couldn't go inside, couldn't face Pamela and pretend everything was fine. His phone buzzed. Another debt collector. Final notice. Your account has been sent to collections. Call us immediately at 1-800. He deleted the message. Then he deleted the voicemail notification. Then he turned off his phone entirely. The truth was crushing him. He'd taken a personal loan to pay the credit cards. Then he'd borrowed from his 401k to pay the personal loan. Then he'd maxed out a new credit card to cover the 401k loan payments. It was a house of cards, and it was collapsing. Pamela knew some of it. She knew they were tight on money. She knew they'd had to cut back on restaurants and Tommy's music classes. But she didn't know the real numbers. Didn't know they were one missed paycheck away from eviction. James had kept telling himself he could fix it. He'd get a promotion, or a better job, or win the lottery. Something, anything. But nothing had come. And now his mother, his safety net, his backup plan, his last resort was gone, because he'd pushed her away. The passenger door opened suddenly. James jumped. Pamela slid into the seat, closing the door against the rain. I saw you from the window. You've been sitting out here for 20 minutes. I'm fine. No, you're not. Her voice was gentle but firm. James, talk to me. What's going on? He couldn't look at her. Nothing. Just work stress. Is it your mom? Do you miss her? That broke something in him. Tears came fast and hot, embarrassing him. I ruined everything, Pam. I sent her that message because you were upset, and now she won't help us, and we're drowning and I don't know what to do. Pamela's face went pale. Help us, James. What are you talking about? The money. She was sending us money. $1,200 every month, plus extra for emergencies, and I stopped it because of that stupid message. $1,200. Pamela's voice went up an octave. Every month for how long? 18 months. Jesus Christ, James, that's... She did the math in her head. That's over $20,000. $21,600. He wiped his face roughly. Plus another $26,000 in other payments. Pamela stared at him. $47,000. Your mother gave us $47,000 and you never told me. I didn't want you to feel guilty. You were already upset about her coming over all the time. So instead you took her money behind my back. Pamela's hands were shaking. While I was complaining about her rearranging my kitchen cabinets, she was paying our bills. I was going to tell you, I couldn't find the right time. There's never a right time for something like this. Pamela opened the car door. I need to think. I need space. She slammed the door and ran back to the apartment through the rain. James sat alone in the car, his head in his hands, and wondered how his life had become such a disaster. Christmas was 2 weeks away. Usually by now I'd have all my shopping done, presents wrapped, holiday cookies baked and stored in the freezer. This year I had nothing. I'd bought a small gift for Tommy, a stuffed dinosaur, because Victoria had told me he was obsessed with dinosaurs. But I had no idea if I'd ever get to give it to him. On December 15th, my phone rang. Not James. Pamela. My heart raced as I answered. Hello. Laura. Her voice was thick like she'd been crying. It's Pamela. Can we talk in person? Of course. When today, as soon as possible, I can come to your house. I'll be here. Come whenever you're ready. She arrived 30 minutes later, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, wearing sweatpants and a raincoat. I made tea while she sat at my kitchen table, her hands wrapped around the mug like she needed the warmth. I didn't know, she said finally. About the money. James never told me. I sat down across from her. I know. $47,000, Laura. That's... She shook her head. That's more than I make in a year. And I was complaining about you reorganizing my spices. You had every right to set boundaries, Pamela. The money and the boundaries are separate issues. Are they, though? Because I feel like I pushed away the person who was keeping us afloat. And I didn't even know it. Fresh tears spilled down her face. I'm so ashamed. I reached across the table and took her hand. Tell me what's really going on. Not just the money. All of it. And she did. She told me about her childhood, about Victoria leaving when she was 12, about feeling abandoned and unwanted, about her father remarrying a woman who made it clear Pamela was a burden. I swore I'd never depend on anyone again, Pamela said, especially not a mother figure, because mothers leave, mothers disappoint, mothers make you feel like you're not enough. Is that how I made you feel? I asked gently. She nodded miserably. Not intentionally. You were so perfect. Perfect meals, perfect advice, perfect grandmother. And I kept thinking, I'll never be this good. I'll never measure up. Every time you helped, it felt like proof that I was failing. Oh, Pamela. My heart broke for her. I'm not perfect. Not even close. I overstepped constantly. I didn't respect your space because I was afraid of becoming irrelevant. We were both operating from our own fears. I'm seeing a therapist now, she said. Dr. Rachel. She's helping me work through my issues with Victoria, with mother figures in general. She says I have an avoidant attachment style, that I push people away before they can leave me. That must be hard work. It is, but I'm trying, because Laura, I don't want to lose you, and I don't want Tommy to grow up without his grandmother. She pulled an envelope from her purse. This is why I came today. She slid the envelope across the table. I opened it. A check, made out to me, for $47,000. Pamela, I can't. Please let me explain. She took a shaky breath. James and I sold my car. I took on extra listings, worked 7 days a week for 3 months. James picked up a weekend job doing Uber. We cut everything. No eating out, no new clothes, no extras. We needed to do this. We needed to prove to ourselves and to you that we can stand on our own. I stared at the check, overwhelmed. This must have been incredibly difficult. It was, but it was also necessary, because if we're going to ask you back into our lives, it has to be real. Not because we need your money, but because we need you, the person, the grandmother, Her voice cracked. The mom I never had. I felt tears streaming down my own face now. But Laura, I need you to understand something. Pamela looked me in the eye. I can't go back to how things were. I need boundaries, real ones, and I need you to respect them even when it's hard. I understand, and I need something too. She looked surprised. What in? I need to not be needed. I need to be wanted. There's a difference. I need you to invite me over because you want my company, not because you need a babysitter or money or advice. I need to know I matter as a person, not just as a resource. Pamela nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. We sat in silence for a moment. Laura, can I ask you something? Will you come to Christmas dinner? Please, Tommy asks about you every single day. My heart swelled. I'd love to, on one condition. What? Let me bring the dessert, just the dessert. You cook the rest. A smile broke through her tears. Deal. But the check sat on my counter uncashed for 3 more days, because I needed to talk to James. He finally came over on December 18th, alone. He stood on my porch looking like a man who'd aged 10 years in 3 months. Hi, Mom. Come in, honey. He sat on the couch, the same couch where I'd rocked him as a baby, where we'd watched movies when he was sick, where we'd had so many conversations over the years. Pamela told me she came to see you, he said. She did. She showed you the check, yes. Are you going to cash it? His voice was small, uncertain. I don't know yet. First, I need to hear from you. What happened, James? How did you get almost $50,000 in debt? He told me everything. The first credit card he'd opened to buy Pamela's anniversary present. The second one to cover unexpected car repairs. The personal loan to consolidate the cards. The 401k loan to cover the personal loan. The endless cycle of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Why keep it secret? Because I wanted you to think I was successful. I wanted you to be proud of me. Every time I asked for help, I felt like a failure. But I couldn't stop asking because I couldn't break the cycle. And the message. Asking me to back off, James looked at the floor. That was the worst thing I've ever done. Pamela was upset about boundaries, yeah, but I also knew if you backed off, I'd have an excuse for why I couldn't pay my bills. I could blame you for cutting us off instead of admitting I'd made terrible financial decisions. The honesty gutted me. You used me as a scapegoat. Yes, and I'm so sorry, Mom. You deserved better. You deserved the truth. I let that sit between us. James, I need to tell you something too. I enabled you. Every time you called in a crisis, I threw money at the problem instead of asking hard questions. I made it easy for you to avoid responsibility. I robbed you of the chance to grow up financially. You were just trying to help. I was trying to feel needed. There's a difference. When your dad died, I didn't know who I was anymore. I'd spent 33 years being his wife and 35 years being your mother. I didn't have an identity outside of those roles. So when you needed me, I felt valuable, necessary, important. James's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to buy my love. And I'm sorry I let you become dependent on me. We both cried then. Not the quiet, dignified tears of adults, but the messy, ugly crying of people finally being honest with each other. Can we fix this? James asked. Can we start over? We can try. But James, things have to change, really change. I know. We've already started. Pamela and I met with a financial counselor. We're on a debt repayment plan. 5 years to pay everything off. No more credit cards. Cash only. We're living on a strict budget. That's good. That's really good. And Mom, I need to say this. You're allowed to have a life. You're allowed to date. You're allowed to put yourself first. I'm 35 years old. It's time I stood on my own feet. I smiled through my tears. I'm glad you said that, because I've been seeing someone. His name is David. I met him at my painting class. James's eyebrows shot up. Really, Mom, that's great. Is it you're not upset? Why would I be upset? Dad's been gone 8 years. He'd want you to be happy. Something warm spread through my chest. Permission. From my son. To live my own life. There's something else, I said. I stood and got the check from the kitchen counter. I held it in my hands looking at it. $47,000. The sum total of 18 months of my life. Of retirement savings I'd worked 30 years to build. I'm not going to cash this, I said. James's face fell. Mom, please, we need to make this right. Let me finish. I'm not going to cash this now. I'm going to put it in a trust fund for Tommy's education. You and Pamela worked incredibly hard to pay me back, and I respect that. But you need that money more than I do right now. You have debt to clear, a life to build. But Mom, however, I continued firmly, when Tommy turns 18, he'll get this money for college, with interest. And you'll explain to him that his parents learned a hard lesson about debt and responsibility, and they wanted to pass on something better to him. James was crying again. You're too good to us. No, I'm good to myself first now. That's the difference. I'm doing this because it aligns with my values, not because I need you to owe me. I picked up a pen and signed the back of the check. Then I wrote to be deposited in trust for Thomas James Reed for educational purposes, released upon 18th birthday or college enrollment, whichever comes first. I'll set up the trust account tomorrow, I said. The money will be there growing waiting for Tommy. But it's not yours, and it's not a gift you need to feel guilty about. It's an investment in your son's future. Consider it his inheritance from his grandmother. James stood and hugged me. Really hugged me. Not the quick, obligatory hugs we'd been exchanging for years, but the deep embrace of two people who'd found their way back to each other. I love you, Mom. I love you too, honey. Now go home to your wife and son. And James. Yeah. Don't call me unless you just want to talk. Not because you need something, just because you want to hear your mother's voice. Can you do that? He smiled. Yeah, I can do that. After James left, I sat on my couch and cried. But this time they were good tears. Relief tears. The tears of something heavy finally lifting. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Still on for coffee tomorrow. I found a new place I think you'll love. They have the best almond croissants. I smiled and typed back, absolutely. Pick me up at 9. It's a date, with a man who wasn't my late husband, at 62 years old. It felt terrifying and thrilling and absolutely right. The next morning, David arrived exactly at 9, holding a single yellow rose. I know it's corny, he said, looking embarrassed. But Ellen always said a man should bring flowers on a first date, even if you're old enough to have grown kids. It's perfect, I said, taking the rose. Give me 1 second. I put it in a small vase and set it on my kitchen table. When I came back, David was looking at the paintings on my wall, the ones I'd been working on in class. "These are really good, Laura. You have a gift." "They're just practice pieces." "No, they're more than that. This one especially." He pointed to a painting of a window with light streaming through. "There's emotion in this. Hope. Renewal. You can feel it." I looked at the painting with fresh eyes. He was right. I'd painted it the week after James and I reconciled. I'd been thinking about new beginnings, about doors closing and windows opening. "Thank you," I said softly. "Come on," David said, offering his arm. "Let's go get those croissants before they sell out." The coffee shop was in a converted house in southeast Portland, all exposed brick and mismatched furniture. We ordered lattes and croissants and sat by the window watching the rain. "Can I ask you something personal?" David said. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to." "Go ahead." "Your son. Eleanor mentioned you'd been having trouble with him. Is everything okay now?" I considered the question. "It's complicated. We had a major falling out. He pushed me away and I had to learn to let go, to stop enabling him, to find my own identity outside of being his mother. That must have been hard." "It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than losing Robert in some ways. Because Robert's death wasn't a choice, but choosing to step back from James, to let him struggle, that required a different kind of strength." David nodded. "I went through something similar with my daughter Lily. She's 40 now, married with 2 kids of her own. But in her 20s, she was a mess. Terrible boyfriends, job hopping, always in some crisis. Ellen and I kept bailing her out, and she kept making the same mistakes. What changed? Ellen got sick, cancer. Suddenly Lily had to step up. She became the caretaker instead of the one being taken care of. And you know what? She thrived. She found strength she didn't know she had. After Ellen died, Lily told me, 'Dad, I'm glad I got to be there for Mom, because I finally grew up.' Do you think our kids need us to step back so they can grow? I think they need us to trust them, to believe they're capable. And sometimes our helping sends the opposite message. It says, 'I don't think you can handle this on your own.'" I'd never thought of it that way. We talked for 2 hours, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. His woodworking hobby, my painting class, books we'd read, movies we wanted to see, places we'd traveled, places we still wanted to go. "I should probably confess something," David said as we were leaving. "Eleanor set this up, sort of." "What do you mean?" "She told me about you weeks ago. Kept saying you need to meet my friend Laura. You two would really hit it off. I think she scheduled our painting class breaks to overlap on purpose." I laughed. That sneaky woman. I should be annoyed, but honestly I'm grateful. "Me too." David walked me to my car. "Can I see you again?" "Maybe dinner next time." "I'd like that." He leaned in and kissed my cheek, gentle and tentative. "I'll call you." I drove home with a smile I couldn't wipe off my face. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold. Unusual for Portland, which was normally rainy this time of year. The sun sparkled on frost-covered grass, making everything look magical. I'd been invited to James and Pamela's apartment for dinner at 2 o'clock. I spent the morning baking a pumpkin pie and a chocolate cake. Just the desserts as promised. At 1:45, I knocked on their door, balancing the cake carrier and pie. Tommy opened the door. "Gamma!" He launched himself at my legs, nearly knocking me over. I'd never heard a sweeter sound than my name in his 3-year-old voice. "Hi, baby boy." I set down the desserts and scooped him up. "Oh, I've missed you so much." "I missed you too. Come see my dinosaurs. I got new ones for Christmas." James appeared in the doorway. "Merry Christmas, Mom." "Merry Christmas, honey." The apartment smelled incredible. Turkey roasting, fresh bread, something cinnamony baking. Pamela emerged from the kitchen wearing an apron dusted with flour. "Laura, come in, how are you?" "I'm wonderful. Your home smells amazing." "I'm trying this new stuffing recipe. I have no idea if it'll turn out." She looked nervous but excited. "I'm sure it'll be perfect." And it was. Not because the meal was flawless. The turkey was slightly dry, the gravy was lumpy, and the rolls were a bit overdone. But it was perfect because we were together. Really together. We ate at their small dining table, Tommy in his high chair between James and Pamela and me across from them. We said grace, something I'd forgotten James knew how to do. "We have a lot to be thankful for this year," James said, looking at me. "Family, second chances, New beginnings. Amen, we all said. After dinner, while James cleared the table and Pamela loaded the dishwasher, Tommy climbed into my lap with a book. Read Gamma. Of course, sweetheart. It was a book about dinosaurs naturally. Tommy pointed at each picture, telling me elaborate stories about what the dinosaurs were doing. And this one is a T-Rex, and he's going to the store to buy milk for his baby T-Rex because his baby is hungry and needs milk to grow big and strong. That's a very good Daddy T-Rex, I said, kissing the top of his head. James and Pamela came back from the kitchen. They sat on the couch together, James's arm around Pamela, watching Tommy and me. Mom, James said, we wanted to talk to you about something. My heart clenched. What now? It's good news, Pamela added quickly, seeing my face. We promise. Okay. We want to establish real boundaries, James said. Healthy ones, so this doesn't happen again. Pamela pulled out a notebook. We wrote them down. Dr. Rachel suggested we make them specific and clear. Is it okay if we share them with you? Of course. Pamela read from the list. 1, we'd love to see you once a week on Sunday afternoons for family dinner. We'll alternate hosting 1 week at our place, 1 week at yours. 2, if we need help with Tommy, we'll ask at least 24 hours in advance if possible. No last-minute assumptions. 3, financial help is off the table. We need to manage our own money, but we'll absolutely ask for advice if we need it. 4, for parenting decisions, we'll listen to your input, but the final call is ours. 5, you're welcome to visit, but please text first, and we'll respect your space the same way. She looked up from the notebook. What do you think, is this fair? I thought about it carefully. It's more than fair, but I'd like to add one more. What's that? Number 6, I'm allowed to live my own life. I'm dating someone. His name is David. I'd like to introduce you to him eventually, and I need you to be supportive, even if it feels weird. James and Pamela exchanged glances, then both smiled. We can't wait to meet him, James said. You deserve to be happy, Mom. The week between Christmas and New Year's, everything felt surreal. I was seeing David regularly. We'd been out 4 times, and each date was better than the last. James called me twice just to chat, not because he needed anything. Tommy and I had a FaceTime date where he showed me all his Christmas presents in excruciating 3-year-old detail. Life felt good, balanced, mine. On New Year's Eve, David invited me to dinner at his house. He'd cooked something he admitted he rarely did. I'm not Ellen in the kitchen, he warned, but I make a decent lasagna. His house was in southeast Portland, a cozy craftsman with a workshop in the garage. The interior was warm and inviting, with family photos on every surface. That's Ellen, he said, pointing to a picture of a woman with silver hair and kind eyes. That's Lily and her husband Tom. Those are my grandkids, Sophie and Ben. Beautiful family. They are. I'm lucky. He gestured to the dining table. Come on, let's eat before it gets cold. The lasagna was delicious. We ate by candlelight, talking about the year behind us and the year ahead. What are your resolutions? David asked. I don't usually make them. They always feel like setting myself up for failure. Fair point. What about intentions? Things you want to work toward? I thought about it. I want to keep painting. Maybe take an advanced class. I want to maintain the boundaries I've set with James. And I want to be brave. To keep choosing myself, even when it's hard. Those are good intentions. He raised his wine glass. To being brave. To being brave, I echoed. We clinked glasses. At midnight, we stood on his back porch, watching his neighbors shoot off fireworks despite the rain. Can I kiss you? David asked. A real kiss this time, not just a cheek peck. My heart raced. I'd like that. He kissed me gently, tentatively. It felt strange and wonderful and terrifying, like crossing a threshold into something new. When we pulled apart, I was crying. Was it that bad? David joked gently. No, it's just, Robert was the only man I'd kissed in 40 years, and now there's you, and it feels like betraying him and honoring him at the same time. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Ellen would want me to be happy. She'd probably like you, actually. You have the same quiet strength she had. I think Robert would like you too. He always said I needed someone to make me laugh. We went back inside and I didn't leave until 2 in the morning. But not everything was perfect. 2 weeks into January, I got a call from Victoria, Pamela's mother. Laura, I need to tell you something about Pamela, about her childhood. We met for coffee. Victoria looked older than her 55 years, worn down by regret. I left when Pamela was 12, Victoria said without preamble. I had postpartum depression after she was born. It never went away. For 12 years I struggled. I tried to be a good mother, but I was drowning. Her father, he didn't understand. Thought I was lazy or weak. The fighting got worse and worse. I'm so sorry. One day I just broke. I packed a bag and left. Filed for divorce. Didn't fight for custody because I knew I couldn't handle it. I was hospitalized twice for depression. By the time I was stable enough to be a real parent, Pamela wanted nothing to do with me. That must have been devastating. It was. Is. We've been working on our relationship for years now. Therapy, both individual and together. She's forgiven me mostly, but the damage is there. She pushes away mother figures because she's terrified of abandonment. She told me some of this. Did she tell you that she drove away her last mother-in-law to James's father's second wife before he passed same pattern? Got close, then pushed her away. It's not about you, Laura. It's her trauma. I absorbed this. Why are you telling me this now? Because I see her working so hard to fix things with you, and I want you to understand how significant that is. For Pamela to admit she was wrong to go to therapy to work on these issues, she's breaking a pattern that's defined her whole adult life. Please be patient with her. She's trying so hard. I will. I promise. Victoria squeezed my hand. You're good for them. For all of them. Don't give up on her. That conversation changed how I saw everything. Pamela's defensiveness wasn't about me being a bad mother-in-law. It was about her being terrified of losing another mother. And James's enabling wasn't about being weak. It was about trying to protect his wife from her own pain while managing his own financial spiral. We were all just people. Flawed, scared, trying our best. Making mistakes. Hurting each other without meaning to. But we were also all trying to heal. To do better. To break the patterns that had held us captive. February brought rain and wind and the first signs of spring. Daffodils pushed through the cold earth in my garden. Life persisting despite the winter. I was at painting class working on a landscape when my phone buzzed. A text from James. Mom, are you busy? I need to talk. My stomach clenched. Those words still triggered panic. I'm at painting class. Is everything okay? Yes. Everything's fine. Just wanted to share something. Call when you're free. I called him during the break. Hey, Mom, so I have news. Good news. Okay. I got promoted. Regional marketing manager. 20% raise. And the hours are actually better than before. James, that's wonderful. Yeah, and Mom, I need to tell you something. The reason I got promoted, I had to take a financial literacy course for the position. Had to prove I could manage budgets. And that course, it was a wake-up call. I realized how bad I'd let things get. How much I didn't know about money management. I'm proud of you for learning. There's more. Pamela and I met with a financial advisor. A real one, not just a debt counselor. We have a plan now. A real plan. We're going to be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but in 5 years, we'll be completely debt-free. My eyes filled with tears. That's incredible, honey. I couldn't have done it without hitting rock bottom, without you stepping back and letting me fall. It hurt like hell, Mom, but it saved me. After we hung up, I sat in my car and cried. The good kind of crying. The kind that comes when you realize your child is going to be okay. Not because you saved them, but because they saved themselves. March arrived with cherry blossoms and the promise of spring. David and I had been dating for 3 months. He'd met James and Pamela over dinner at my house, slightly awkward at first, but by dessert, James and David were talking about vintage cars like old friends. Life felt stable, predictable, good. Then my phone rang at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. James. Frantic. Mom, Tommy's in the hospital. We're at OHSU emergency. He had a seizure. They're running tests. Can you come? I was out the door in 3 minutes, still in my pajamas with a coat thrown over them. The emergency room was fluorescent bright and sterile smelling. I found James and Pamela in the pediatric waiting area. Pamela's mascara was smeared down her face. James looked like he'd aged 10 years. What happened? I grabbed James's hands. He just collapsed. We were putting him to bed reading his dinosaur book and suddenly he started shaking. His eyes rolled back. Mom, I thought he was dying. Where is he now? They're doing an MRI. Looking for... They're checking everything. Tumors, epilepsy, infections. Pamela's voice broke on the word tumors. I pulled them both into my arms. He's going to be okay. Tommy's strong. He's going to be fine. But inside, I was terrified too. We waited for 3 hours. Finally, a doctor emerged, young, kind-eyed, wearing Finding Nemo scrubs. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, Tommy's stable. The good news is we don't see any tumors or brain abnormalities. We think this was a febrile seizure caused by a rapid spike in fever. It looks scary, but it's actually fairly common in young children. A fever, James repeated. That's all. He has a nasty ear infection that came on suddenly. We're admitting him overnight for observation and IV antibiotics, but his prognosis is excellent. Most children who have one febrile seizure never have another. The relief was so intense it was physical. Pamela actually fell into a chair, sobbing. Can we see him? I asked. Of course. He's awake and asking for his parents. And his gamma. We found Tommy in a pediatric room hooked up to monitors, but smiling, holding a stuffed hospital bear. Gamma, look, I got a bear. I kissed his forehead, checking for fever by habit. Still warm, but better. That's a very special bear baby. The doctor said I was very brave. I didn't even cry. His 3-year-old pride was adorable. You're the bravest boy I know. James and Pamela stood on either side of the bed, each holding one of Tommy's hands. The picture of exhausted parents who'd just lived their worst nightmare. Mom, James said quietly, thank you for coming. Where else would I be? But that night revealed something I hadn't expected. After Tommy fell asleep, I sat with James and Pamela in the uncomfortable hospital chairs. Pamela excused herself to get coffee, leaving James and me alone. Mom, I need to tell you something, and I'm embarrassed to say it. What's wrong? The hospital wants payment information. Our insurance has a $5,000 deductible. For the ER visit, the MRI, the overnight stay, it's going to be around $8,000 total. He rubbed his face. We have $2,000 in savings. That's it. We've been paying down debt, but we don't have emergency money yet. My first instinct, the one I'd had for 35 years, was to immediately say, don't worry, I'll cover it. But I stopped myself. This was the test. The real test. What are your options? I asked instead. James looked surprised by the question. I don't know. I could ask if they have a payment plan. That's a good idea. What else? I guess I could pick up extra Uber shifts Pamela could take on more listings. Both solid options. Anything else? He thought for a moment. My 401k loan is almost paid off. Maybe I could take out a small amount again just for this emergency. I wanted to scream. No! Don't touch your retirement again. Let me pay for it. Let me fix this. But I didn't. Those are all reasonable solutions, I said carefully. Which one feels right to you? Probably a combination. Payment plan for most of it, and we pick up extra work to cover the monthly payments. He looked at me with something like hope and fear mixed together. I wasn't asking you for money, Mom. I needed to tell someone. I needed to not carry this alone. My heart broke and healed at the same time. I'm proud of you for thinking through solutions instead of just panicking. You're not going to offer to pay for it. Do you want me to? James was quiet for a long moment. Part of me does, the scared kid part, but the adult part knows I need to handle this. We need to handle this. If you fix it, we don't learn. We don't grow. I hugged him tight. That's exactly right. And honey, if you truly can't manage, if you've exhausted every option and you're in real trouble, I'm here. But I think you can do this. Yeah. He smiled, shaky but real. Yeah, I think we can too. But here's what I didn't tell James that night in the hospital. The trust fund I'd set up for Tommy, it could be accessed early for medical emergencies. I'd structured it that way intentionally with David's advice. He'd pointed out that college was important, but what if Tommy needed the money before then? What if there was a real crisis? So I'd included provisions. The trustee me could release funds early for 3 reasons: medical emergencies, special needs care, or life-threatening situations. Tommy's seizure qualified. I could write a check that night. Could pay the entire $8,000 bill and never tell anyone. The money would come from Tommy's trust, which was technically their money anyway, just held for the future. It would solve everything. They'd never have to worry. Never have to work extra shifts or set up payment plans or touch James's 401k again. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot at 3 a.m., checkbook in hand, pen hovering over the paper. This was the real test, not of James, of me. Could I let them struggle when I had the power to prevent it? Could I watch my grandson's parents stress and sacrifice when I could write one check and fix it? Could I truly, finally let go? I thought about Eleanor's words. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone fall. I thought about Dr. Rachel's insight about Pamela. She pushes people away before they can leave her. I thought about James's own revelation. If you fix it, we don't learn. I put the checkbook away. Then I drove home and cried for an hour. Not because I was being cruel, but because love, real love, sometimes means holding space for people to struggle instead of rescuing them from the struggle. Tommy's 4th birthday party was at a park near their new apartment. New apartment. That was significant. In June, James and Pamela had made the difficult decision to downsize. They'd moved from their $2,400 a month place in the Pearl District to a 1,602 bedroom in a quieter neighborhood. Less trendy, less Instagram-worthy, but significantly more affordable. It's actually better, Pamela had told me during the move. Tommy has a backyard now. There are kids his age, and we're saving $800 a month. Plus, James had added, we're 15 minutes closer to you, Mom. Now, watching Tommy run around the playground with his dinosaur-themed birthday hat, I marveled at how much had changed. The hospital bill, they'd negotiated it down to $6,000, and we're paying $200 a month. We'll have it paid off in 2.5 years, James had said with pride. Pamela's real estate business booming. She'd sold 3 houses in the last 2 months alone. James's promotion leading to even more opportunities. He'd been headhunted by a competing firm offering 30% more than his current salary. He'd negotiated with his current employer and gotten a counteroffer that matched it. I never would have had the confidence to negotiate before, James told me. I would have been too afraid of losing the job. But going through the financial crisis taught me my worth. They were thriving, not despite the struggle, but because of it. David stood next to me holding my hand, watching Tommy open presents. You did good, he said quietly. I didn't do anything. They did it all themselves. Exactly. You loved them enough to let them. That takes incredible strength. Eleanor appeared with paper plates. Laura, this cake is stunning. Did you make it? I did. Chocolate with vanilla buttercream, Tommy's favorite. And you only brought the cake right. You let Pamela handle everything else. I smiled. I let Pamela handle everything else. It had been hard. My instinct had been to take over to coordinate the party to make sure every detail was perfect. But Pamela had planned the whole thing herself. And yes, the decorations were a little crooked. And yes, she'd forgotten to buy candles and had to send James to the store at the last minute. But it was her party, her triumph, her memory to make with her son. Tommy ran over chocolate cake smeared on his face. Gamma, will you push me on the swings? Of course, birthday boy. As I pushed Tommy higher and higher, his delighted screams filling the air, I felt a profound sense of peace. This was enough. This moment, this love, this connection, it was enough. I wasn't needed every day. I wasn't the center of their universe. I was a satellite orbiting at a healthy distance, close enough to matter, but far enough to let them breathe. And I had my own life, my own sun to orbit. David, my painting classes I'd advanced to intermediate level. My volunteer work at the animal shelter where I'd fallen in love with a 3-legged dog named Charlie and adopted him last month. My book club friends, my Tuesday morning yoga class. I was Laura, not just James's mom, not just Tommy's grandma. Laura, a whole person with interests and hobbies and relationships and dreams. That evening after the party, James and Pamela invited David and me to stay for dinner. We sat around their dining table, the same small table from before, but somehow it felt bigger now, more spacious. Tommy was in his booster seat telling David an elaborate story about dinosaurs that made absolutely no sense but was utterly charming. And then the T-Rex said, "No thank you, I'm a vegetarian." And the other dinosaurs were so surprised. David played along perfectly. A vegetarian T-Rex that's very progressive. Pamela brought out the lasagna she'd been taking cooking classes and was getting quite good. Laura, I used your recipe. I hope that's okay. Of course. How did it turn out? Try it and tell me. I took a bite. It was delicious. Not quite like mine, she'd added more garlic, less oregano, but wonderful in its own way. It's perfect, I said honestly. Even better than mine. Pamela beamed. After dinner, while David and James cleared the table and Tommy played with his new dinosaur toys, Pamela pulled me aside. "Laura, I need to tell you something." My stomach clenched. Old habits. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, everything's right. That's what I want to say." She took my hands. "A year ago, I pushed you away because I was terrified of needing you, of loving you and losing you like I lost my mom. But you gave me space. You respected my boundaries. And somehow that made me trust you more, not less." "Pamela, let me finish. You're the mother I always needed. Not the one who does everything for me, but the one who believes I can do things myself. The one who shows up not because she has to, but because she wants to. The one who loves me enough to let me fail and cheer for me when I succeed." Tears streamed down both our faces. "I'm going to ask you something and you can say no," Pamela continued. "But I'd like Tommy to call you Grandma officially, not just Gamma. Grandma, because that's what you are, his real true grandma. He can call me whatever feels right to him," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "There's something else. Victoria and I are working on our relationship. It's going well, actually. We have lunch once a month. We're in family therapy together. But she's not going to be a traditional grandmother. She's more like a friend, which is okay. We're both okay with that." "I'm glad you're healing that relationship." "Me too. But Laura, Tommy needs you. We need you. Not your money, not your cooking, not your babysitting, though all of that is lovely when offered freely. We need you, the person. Do you understand?" I nodded, unable to speak through the tears. We held each other, two women who'd hurt each other, pushed each other away, and somehow found their way back to something stronger than before. That night back at my house, David made tea while I sat at my kitchen table, emotionally exhausted but fulfilled. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, setting a mug in front of me. "I'm thinking about writing a letter to myself, the me from a year ago who got that awful text message from James. What would you say?" I pulled out my journal, a habit I'd started at Dr. Rachel's suggestion, and began to write. "Dear Laura of last March, right now you're holding your phone reading a message that's breaking your heart into 1,000 pieces. You're wondering what you did wrong, how you failed as a mother, whether you'll ever see your grandson again. I'm writing to tell you, it gets better, so much better, but not in the way you think. You're not going to fix this by trying harder. You're not going to win them back by being more helpful, more generous, more available. You're going to win yourself back by doing the opposite. You're going to let go. You're going to step back. You're going to stop enabling and start trusting. You're going to stop defining yourself by your usefulness and start discovering your worth. It's going to hurt. Oh, Laura, it's going to hurt so much. There will be nights you cry yourself to sleep. Days you pick up the phone to text James and have to force yourself to put it down. Moments you wonder if you're being cruel, if you're punishing them, if you're destroying your only family. But you're not. You're saving them. And you're saving yourself. Here's what you're going to learn. 1. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's self-abandonment. 2. Being needed isn't the same as being valued. 3. Your children have to fall so they can learn to stand. 4. You are more than a mother. You are Laura, artist, friend, lover, volunteer, woman. 5. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's the ultimate act of love. In 1 year, you'll sit at a birthday party watching your grandson blow out candles. Your son will have a good job and a payment plan for his debt. Your daughter-in-law will call you mom. You'll have a kind man holding your hand. And you'll realize that letting go was the only way to hold on to what mattered. The you from next year is proud of the you from today. We did it. We survived. We thrived. Keep going. The dawn is coming. With love and hope, future Laura. I closed the journal and looked up at David through tears. That's beautiful, he said softly. May I ask what you're going to do with it? I'm going to keep it. And maybe someday when another mother is going through this, I'll share it. Because I can't be the only one who's felt this way. You're definitely not. We sat in comfortable silence, Charlie the three-legged dog snoring at our feet, the kitchen warm with tea and companionship. March came around again, bringing with it the anniversary of that awful message. I woke up early before the sun rose and sat by my window with coffee. 1 year ago today, my life had shattered. Today it was whole. Different, but whole. My phone buzzed, a text from James. Mom, I know what day it is. I know what I did a year ago today. I'm sorry. I love you. Can we come over for breakfast? I smiled and typed back, I'd love that. Come at 9. Bring Tommy. I'll make pancakes. They arrived right on time, Tommy rushing in with a handful of dandelions picked from their yard. For you, Grandma, not Gamma. He'd made the switch naturally about 2 months ago. They're beautiful, sweetheart. Let's put them in water. While Tommy helped me arrange the flowers in a vase, James and Pamela stood in my kitchen doorway holding hands. Mom, James said, we got you something. Pamela handed me an envelope. Inside was a card with a watercolor painting on the front, one of mine from my first class. They'd had it printed. The message inside read, Laura, 1 year ago we broke something precious, but you taught us that broken things, when mended with care and truth and love, become stronger than before. Thank you for loving us enough to let us grow. Thank you for being the mother, grandmother, and woman you are. We love you. James, Pamela, and Tommy. Below their signatures was a small note, P.S. Tommy's trust fund has earned $3,200 in interest this year. Thank you for thinking of his future, even when we couldn't. I hugged them both, tears flowing freely. Pancakes, Tommy announced. Grandma makes the best pancakes. I do, don't I? I laughed, wiping my eyes. Come on, birthday boy's dad, you can help me. As we cooked together, me teaching James how to flip pancakes properly, Pamela setting the table, Tommy arranging his dinosaur toys in a parade, I realized something profound. This was what I'd been searching for all along. Not to be needed, but to be chosen. Not to be indispensable, but to be valued. Not to be the solution to their problems, but to be welcomed into their joy. We ate pancakes drowning in syrup. We laughed at Tommy's dinosaur jokes. We made plans for Easter dinner next month. We were family. Not the family we'd been a year ago, built on a foundation of unspoken resentment and enabling, but a new family built on honesty and boundaries and mutual respect. And later that evening, when David came over for dinner, when we all sat together, James, Pamela, Tommy, David, and me, I looked around the table and felt overwhelmingly grateful. Grateful for the message that broke my heart. Grateful for the pain that forced me to change. Grateful for the silence that taught me to listen. Grateful for the letting go that brought us closer. Grateful for the journey from being needed to being loved. Tommy's 5th birthday party. A different park, a bigger crowd, his preschool friends now, not just family. I sat on a bench with Victoria watching Tommy play. He's a good kid, Victoria said. He really is. Pamela and I had lunch yesterday. She told me you two have become close. We have. She's like a daughter to me now. Victoria smiled a little sad. I'm glad she has that. I can't be that for her. Not after everything. But I'm grateful she has you. You're his grandmother too, Victoria. There's room for both of us. That's generous of you. It's not generous. It's true. Tommy is lucky enough to have multiple people who love him. That's not competition. That's abundance. We sat together, 2 women who'd both made mistakes. Both lost time with their daughters. Both found ways to he. As the sun set on the party, as David loaded the car with leftover cake and Tommy's forgotten toys, as James and Pamela waved goodbye with promises to see us Sunday for dinner, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because my family needed me, but because I no longer needed them to need me. I was whole on my own, and that wholeness made every moment we shared together a gift, not an obligation. I'd learned the hardest lesson a mother can learn, that the greatest love is the love that sets free. And in setting them free, I'd freed myself. So that's my story. The story of how a cruel text message became the greatest gift I never knew I needed. The story of how losing my role as mom helped me find myself as Laura. If you're going through something similar, if you're the mother who gives too much, the parent whose love has become enabling, the person who's lost yourself in serving others, I want you to know it's okay to step back. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to choose yourself. You're not abandoning your children. You're teaching them to stand. And you're teaching yourself that you matter too. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below and tell me your story. And please comment what city you're watching from. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And while you're here, check out these 2 other stories that are channel favorites. Thank you for following my journey. From the bottom of my healed heart, thank you.